Here now is Lee Zeldin, House Foreign Affairs Committee member, and Matt Gaetz, House Judiciary Committee member. Congressman Zeldin, let's start with you. The House was set to vote to limit Trump's war powers this week, but do the attacks today change the calculus?
I would certainly hope so. I mean, I'm a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. There hasn't been any type of a hearing, any markup of any resolution. Get this, there isn't even text yet. So here we are back in D.C. They're talking about having a vote this week on something to undercut and handcuff the President of the United States. They still haven't even figured out what their text looks like. So I would say it's the wrong answer. I think Speaker Pelosi putting out her statement, and instead of thinking about our troops, hoping there's no casualties, sticking together as Americans first to take that political partisan shot at the president was wrong. I think she needs to do some self-reflecting tonight. And as we go through the rest of this week, we should be working together as Americans first in our response and not going forward in her plan to undercut and to try to take out the president.
Congressman Gaetz, I think the president, and especially hearing John Roberts, this is very important to what he just said.
Very.
They could have hit that or those military bases in a much more strategic and an accurate way, even if they're not as advanced as we are, but they could have done it.
Well, the Iranians certainly were able to draw a bead on their target when they were shooting into Saudi Arabia, and so I think John's point is well taken. Remember, General Soleimani, the terrorist, was trying to pull the United States and Iran into war. That's why it was the right thing to do to kill him. However, we should not give General Soleimani in death what he could not accomplish in life, and that is a war with the United States and Iran. I'm hopeful this was an intentional miss. I do believe if the United States seeks war with Iran, which the president doesn't, the American people don't, that, of course, congressional authorization would be required. That's in the Constitution, certainly not for self-defense. I think the president has been measured, and let's hope that restraint wins the day.
Yeah, I mean, if he wanted to respond tonight, he could have responded tonight. The light of day there, or hours ago.
If the president wanted war with Iran, he's had plenty of opportunities. He has chosen to exercise restraint, and I think we're seeing the Trump doctrine is one where we strike and then move. We don't invade and then try to persuade people that we're liberators.
I said last night, Congressman, that while Bush might have been idealistic when it came to what was possible in Iraq, and we had defeatism on the part of Obama, we have a realism of this president that I think you see in action. Right now, you're seeing it in action.
Yeah, you saw it with taking out Qasem Soleimani. You have the Quds Force as a designated foreign terrorist organization. Qasem Soleimani was a designated terrorist. He was sanctioned by the United States, the EU, the United Nations. And when Nancy Pelosi said that it was disproportionate.
Tonight, when she says tonight, needless provocations from the administration at that point, we didn't know if there were American casualties.
I would love to ask her, at what point is it proportionate when you have 600 U.S. troops who get killed and thousands more that get wounded, and she calls it disproportionate to take out the person who is responsible for it? Take one trip to Walter Reed. Or we serve with Brian Mast. You have these young men, young women who had their whole lives in front of them, and because of Qasem Soleimani, they end up wounded permanently. I'm happy that he can rot in hell with al-Baghdadi and bin Laden. I think that's a huge win for the president.
I think Pelosi's comments are disgusting. It's disgusting to in any way even tiptoe to the edge of equating what the mullahs wanted with what Trump did here. Unbelievable.
Well, but I think you in your last segment raised the right question. So what now? What is the strategic objective for our troops in Iraq? It seems as though the Iraqi parliament has taken a different view on whether or not we even should be there at all. And yeah, maybe we ought to take them up on the offer.
Maybe we ought to leave. Maybe we ought to do what Trump has said we should do for years. Get out of Iraq.
And focus on our country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where his people are. Yeah. Stay in Kuwait. That base there, I've been there, is very nice. We could operate out of there. All right. I have to share this with you. This was Biden earlier today. This was, by the way, after he mixed up Iran and Iraq. No big deal. He said that Iran voted to kick us out of the country. Now, this is what he was saying could be done to calm down the situation. Watch.
The haphazard decision-making process that led up to it, the failure to consult with our allies or Congress, and the reckless disregard for the consequences that would surely follow was, in my view, dangerously incompetent.
He went on to say if he wanted to resolve this, we should get back into the Iran deal.
Yeah, giving $150 billion to Iran and then financing Hezbollah in Lebanon and Assad in Syria and helping the Houthis take out the government in Yemen, test firing intercontinental ballistic missiles. You remember when they detained and embarrassed our Navy sailors, and then John Kerry's response was thank you. And then delivering $1.7 billion on pallets of cash.
But he actually said the way to de-escalate is for us now to go to Iran and say, oh, please, sir, may I have another?
They don't respect
I want to go back. We want to go back to the Iran deal after they use this as an excuse to not abide by the Iran deal, if they even were.
It is obvious that the violence that Iran has undertaken has been animated by the Iran deal. It has been funded by the Iran deal, and thus we are in this circumstance because of the failures of the Obama-Biden policy. But let's make sure that the Trump doctrine is not a continuation of the Obama-Bush doctrine. Let's make sure that we're able to match our military might with the right strategic decisions to get out of the Middle East, a place. Think about what China's thinking right now. They're probably laughing and hoping that we get in another 2-decade-long war.
How much money have they spent in the Middle East?
Yeah, they have not spent trillions of dollars, and they have not spilled the blood of their bravest patriots the way we have.
No, they're investing strategically. I mean, they're putting Huawei into certain countries, and they're getting into the cell phone towers and,
we don't want Huawei
onto the ports.
No.
But, it's important to note, we mentioned some of the non-nuclear bad activities of Iran, but on top of that, and what Joe Biden won't and these other Dems won't tell the American public is the sunset provisions. The Iran nuclear deal was about to end. The flaws with the verification regime. President Obama, Joe Biden, John Kerry, they said this deal is not built on trust. It's built on verification. But then they put the entire verification regime into a secret deal between the IAEA and Iran, and we as members of Congress, the American public, still hasn't seen it.
Well, I have to play something. Getting into another point here is, and I'm going to touch on this later on the angle. We're going to have to talk to Eric Trump and Sarah Carter. We got a great show on tap. But Chris Matthews was on tonight on MSNBC, and this was as we were learning new details about the missile attack. Watch.
We killed this guy. We assassinated him with Mike Pence in the room, with Mike Pompeo in the room. Real hawks, almost religiously so. Are we counting on the fact that the people on the other side are less hawkish, that the people on the other side are less religious in this confrontation?
What a false equivalency. I think that in sort of the left's approach to this, you really see a departure from the way that the Middle East fundamentally works. Obviously, they respond to our expressions of strength. The fact that we took out Soleimani limits their capability to build this Shia crescent that threatens Israel, that threatens the United States ultimately. And so I think that, we've made the right decision and taken Soleimani out. And tonight, hopefully with the lack of casualties, we'll be able to move forward in a way that doesn't draw us into war.
And where John Kerry was applying to be the president of the Tehran Chamber of Commerce and the way he was negotiating that deal, it seems like Chris Matthews, Richard Engel, Andrea Mitchell, with the way they are approaching their reporting today, it's like they want Zarif's job after Zarif. And let's just be Americans first. They hate the president so much that's distorting their reporting. And the people who want to, if they're tuning into Chris Matthews' show, you wonder what kind of a result they were looking for. Soleimani is a terrorist who killed Americans and wounded thousands of others.
We can't even agree on that. Isn't that amazing that we can't even agree? Forget on what the right action was. We can't even agree, apparently, that he was a murderous, evil individual, even though Obama branded him a terrorist. But now Obama branding him a terrorist is invalid.
When we label someone a terrorist under a Democrat administration, does that mean that it's not our goal to kill them anymore? Yeah. I would hope we would want to get rid of the terrorists.
And all the Jones strikes with President Obama. In 2011, the Jones strikes.
You got no notice then.
Nancy Pelosi said that it was totally legal. But then here you have the situation with Qasem Soleimani, and you have Article 2, you have the 2002 AUMF, which we can have a whole other conversation about. But the double standards, the hypocrisy with the way the left is engaging this debate because
Trump is a political astringent. I've said it. I'm going to say it until the election. He has revealed the dirt of this city, from the deep state to the media elites and what they've done to this country and the false reporting. He's revealed it all, and the Republican establishment, who's made boatloads of money off of the defense industry. I'm sorry, I think he's exposed all of this, and it's realism. I think Gaetz, you hit it, Zeldin, you hit it tonight. Such a great night to have both of you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.